Over the last 6 years, I've built a marketing agency from $0 to $3 million in lifetime revenue with a fully remote team of 19 people across 8 countries. And here you can see 16-year-old me in my bedroom getting started learning about Facebook ads. Then we did £67,000 in the year of 2021. This is after I was freelancing for a few years, decided to run an agency in 2020, and then eventually, got the wheels moving after a few years. This is me in 2022. This is me in 2023, once I moved to Dubai. And you can see here a client call with someone on my team who's still with me today. And I have been filming Loom videos, in the early days, 7 years ago, at the time I'm recording this in 2026, 7 years ago, sending Loom videos to yoga studios in the UK because that's what I was focusing on at the time. And Hayes Media is my agency. That's the agency I've been running since 2020. We work with e-commerce brands, and that's the agency that I've grown to over $3 million in lifetime revenue. I've also recently launched Yander, which is a tool that helps marketing agencies get a better pulse on their team and their clients so that they can protect their client relationships, they can keep their clients for longer, but they can also get the best out of their team, and they can avoid burnout, they can avoid disengagement, and they can actually praise the team members that are doing the best and make sure that they can get rid of the team members that are not doing the best and underperforming before it affects the client relationship. If you're interested, yander.io, first link in the description, go ahead, try it out for free in your agency. And as I mentioned, we're a fully remote team. We did rent an office for 2 months last year in Colombia. We have a lot of our team based out in South America, and this is me today running this agency. Last year, we did over $1 million in revenue. It's a yearly summary. This is in dirhams, which directly translates to dollars as about $1 million and 24,000. That's just some background on me. And in this video, I'm going to break down the key to getting high quality clients that pay well and stay for years. We kept clients for over 5 years and clients paying us tens of thousands of dollars every single month. The cold email outbound system that gets clients. Then we're going to be covering converting leads into high value clients. Once you get leads, how do you convert them? So everything from qualification to the 2 call close structure we run, the first call structure, the second call structure, even the onboarding process. We're going to be talking about lifetime value, the client onboarding experience. We're going to be talking about relationship and sentiment tracking. We're going to be talking about escalating existing clients. And then finally, part 4, we're going to be talking about scaling profitably and building the machine. We're going to be talking about the P&L, the financials, scaling quality without scaling yourself, building a team that runs without you, and finally, a proactive hiring process. Let's get into it. The big thing that separates the agencies that grow and the ones that just remain at a plateau for years is not just one thing, it's multiple interlocking systems. And you must nail every single one of those systems to build a business that continues to grow year over year and also continues to remain profitable year over year. Now, what I see happen with most agencies is the founder or the co-founders, maybe they're great at getting clients, but then the delivery falls short, or they can't get enough clients, they can't get a consistent amount of leads. And I've also seen cases where agencies are great at both, but then they just don't look at their financials and they're actually running on very, very thin margins when they could be so much more profitable as a company. I've always seen, even the agencies that are doing 5 million a year, 10 million a year and beyond, there's always something that is holding them back. Even if you have most of these things in place, I'm going to go with you in the video. So throughout this video, you might have some of these things in place already, which is great. But the chances is that you're overseeing 1 or 2 of these things, and that could make all the difference this year as you continue scaling your agency. And as I shared in this video, I'm going to be sharing everything that I have done, everything that I've learned, all the mistakes I've made to build a $3 million marketing agency. And this year, we're on track to do $2 million in revenue in 2026 alone. Now, let's talk about part 1, which is all about building your client acquisition engine. Because as an agency, as you know, if you don't have clients, if you don't have a consistent way of getting high quality clients into your agency, it is extremely difficult to grow. Now, one thing that I faced in my agency was feast and famine, right? Sometimes we'd have a lot of clients coming in, other times it would just be crickets. And I strived to solve that because it was such a painful process. It really impacted me personally as well, as running this business and going from periods of crazy, like, yes, let's go, we're scaling, and then like nothing, right? And what I found is that you want to have a diversified approach of getting those leads into your business. What I focus on is 1 outbound and 1 inbound system. The outbound system could be cold email, it's cold DMs, could be cold Loom videos, cold calls, paid ads, networking. You're reaching out and the audience likely doesn't know who you are. And basically when it comes to outbound, I like to choose 1. I find message market fit, and then I do volume. Because, at my stage, we don't need to have multiple outbound systems live. If you are doing 10 million a year plus, then maybe you want to have multiple and bolt them on. But really, for example, we're doing cold email, which is something that we've been doing for years. And right now we're just really ramping up the volume again. If we just focus on that, we can send millions of emails, right, in a month. And we don't need to be doing the cold calling. We don't need to be doing the paid ads. We can just focus on that because that's going to bring us all the clients that we need. Now, aside from outbound, I also like to have an inbound process that is live and bringing in leads as well. Why? It diversifies. Just like you want to diversify your investment portfolio and you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, because if cold email goes down tomorrow, then our lead source is gone, right? And yes, we get referrals and whatnot, but we're talking about consistent methods that we can control. Inbound is another one, and it's actually the opposite to outbound because you're pulling different levers to get leads in through the door, right? So inbound is, posting organic videos on YouTube, posting on X, posting on LinkedIn, Instagram, doing SEO, having partnerships with other agencies. And again, you want to choose one. You want to find the content market fit, right? What content resonates with your market and where is your market? And then you want to get the volume sweet spot. The reason why I say volume sweet spot and not just like balls to the wall is because I made this mistake of posting way too much on YouTube and we were actually getting diminishing returns and we were just wasting our time. On YouTube, it's not always a volume game. Maybe on these short form platforms like Instagram it is, TikTok it is, LinkedIn, maybe not so much. You want to find that sweet spot. And when we had these two processes dialed in, this is when things really started to change because we weren't reliant on referrals, right? Which is what the feast and famine was in the early days. Now we have outbound and inbound systems that we've built that bring us a consistent flow of quality leads into the agency. And regardless of what you're doing to get clients, whether it's outbound or inbound systems, one thing that I've seen that is very important is your positioning. And most agency owners get this wrong before they even start doing outbound or inbound. Before you send another email, before you post another YouTube video or something else on LinkedIn, you need to be able to answer these 3 questions. Who do you serve? What specific outcome do you deliver? And why should they choose you over everyone else? And what you want to do is you want to define your ideal customer profile, your ICP, very clearly. Here's exactly how to do this. First thing you want to do is you want to pull a list of all of the businesses, the clients that you have got the best results for over all time. Then you want to pull a second list of all the clients that have stayed the longest. Maybe you find what the average is, and then you only include the clients on that list who have stayed above the average time. And finally, you want to build a third list of all the clients that have paid you the most. Now you have 3 lists, you need to find the correlations across these 3 lists. So the clients that stay the longest, that you get the best results for, that pay you the most, you likely want to be working with those businesses. And that is something that I've done that has really helped me hone in exactly who we serve at my agency, Hayes Media. Then what you want to do is you want to clearly define the problem that those businesses are facing at their current stage. Be extremely specific. The more specific you can be, then your content is just going to perform better. Your emails are going to get higher response rates. And finally, you want to define this person's goals. Where do they want their business to be in 6 months, 1 year, 5 years from now? The better you understand what their goals are, again, your efforts with your outreach, your content are just going to be so much higher leverage because you are talking directly to the person that you know that you serve the best. And that part right there that I just went through is something that most agencies skip. They try and serve everyone. They have a very broad message. And they realize over time that they've just been trying to sell to everyone. And as a result, they haven't really attracted a specific ICP that they've consistently got good results for. Because if you're an agency owner, you know that your reputation is everything. So if you have a type of business at a specific stage that you can get consistent results for, it is better just to continue working with them over and over again, rather than trying a bunch of different businesses and getting mixed results. Now that you have your positioning crystal clear, you want to build an offer that's going to resonate deeply with that client. And most agencies just sell what they do, right? We manage meta ads and that's it. But at Hayes Media, we sell the outcome. So rather than saying we're going to manage your meta ads is, yeah, we'll manage your meta ads, but we're all about bringing you from $3 million per year past $10 million per year profitably. And what I'm doing here is I'm shifting it from these guys that just kind of come in and do my meta ads to no, these guys are going to play an instrumental part in scaling my business to 8 figures. And that's really the range that we operate in. So the most important thing here is you lead with the outcome. Of course, talk about what you do, but lead with the outcome, the transformation. What does the end result look like for the clients that you work with? And then when you bring this all together, you have a very clear message to your ideal client. You have a very strong offer, and you have separated yourself from all the other agencies out there. Let's get a little bit further into the weeds here and talk about the cold email outbound system. Because as I mentioned, we've been doing cold email for years, since 2018. And I'm just going to take you through exactly what we've done over the years, but also what we're doing today, because the cold email game has changed a lot. I'm going to tell you what we're doing in 2026, most importantly, what's going to work from today onwards. First and foremost, the copy that we're sending out in the emails is short, punchy, direct, about 50 words, sometimes a little bit longer, but we're not sending out these super long emails. We're not doing a bunch of personalization. It's very simple and direct. With volume, we're doing 1,000 sends per day minimum, which means we're contacting 1,000 different e-commerce businesses that fit our ideal client profile per day as a minimum. And in order to do that, you need the right infrastructure. The way to do this is you don't just say, hey, we have a bunch of inboxes and we're going to just increase the number of emails we send 100 per day per inbox. If you know anything about cold email, you need to be scaling with your domains. So rather than having, just a few domains and a bunch of email accounts, you have a lot of domains, maximum 3 inboxes per domain, and you have a low sending volume per inbox, around 3 to 6 emails per day. You really need to stay under the radar of the spam filters, of being seen as a sender who is sending out cold emails, right? You just need to be you need to fly under the spam radars and keep your volume extremely low per inbox. And then also have a few different things in place like spin taxing your copy, just to make sure that you're not just sending out the same message over and over again, because the spam filters are getting smarter and smarter. Then in order to send your emails, you want to be using something like Instantly. We've been using Instantly for years. It's great. And then finally, you want continuous reputation / deliverability monitoring. Your accounts are going to go down eventually, right? Even with low volumes. So you need a way to have other accounts warming up in the background, other email addresses that you can then rotate in when, some accounts do go down and the deliverability is hurting. And you want to monitor that over time. And this right here is where it gets extremely complex, because if you want to send thousands of emails per day, you're going to need hundreds of domains. We work with an agency that does this for us. They set up the infrastructure. I'd recommend you doing that and then potentially bringing it in-house as you continue scaling. But yeah, we're working with an external partner because I just don't want to deal with, all that crazy infrastructure myself. And my whole approach to cold email is to find the message and the offer that works, the combination that works. Then you want to create variations of it, because if you have a winning script, let's just say, and you start sending that out to everyone, the same exact script to everyone, then the spam filters are going to pick up on that and they're going to start sending your emails to spam. You want to have many different variations of the same script. That's how you kind of keep things varied, right? And you don't trigger spam filters, basically. Then you want to scale the volume. That's really the 3-step approach to being able to scale cold email. Now let's talk about the content inbound system. Outbound gets us in front of people who have never heard of us, and content does the same thing, but we can get more scale faster and we can build trust at the same time. Now the agencies that are winning right now are the ones where the founder is visible, right? Founder-led brands, personal brands are winning in 2026. I've lent heavily into that. And I actually have a YouTube channel where we're closing in on 5,000 subscribers, and we posted just under 300 videos. At the time of recording this, we probably posted way over 300 videos, but at the time of recording this, we probably posted more, but we lent heavily into this and it's brought a lot of good leads for us. Now, you don't have to do YouTube. You could do LinkedIn, you could do X, you could do Instagram, you could do TikTok. It depends where your client is, and also leaning into your strengths. If you don't want to be recording long videos, 15 minutes, 20-minute videos, if you just don't like being in front of camera, and maybe you're much better at writing, then maybe LinkedIn is better for you, or X is better for you. If you are not good at writing or you hate writing, but you don't mind shooting content, try YouTube, try Instagram. So lean into your strengths and also just make sure it's a place where your customer is. And my strategy on YouTube, and the strategy that I would apply to any platform, is just give away a ton of value. Because when you give away a ton of value, people are like, wow, if this is the free stuff, what's the paid stuff going to be like? You need them to be thinking that way. Don't be afraid of giving away the secrets, because most people are just not going to be able to implement them themselves anyway. Show your expertise. And a way to demonstrate your expertise is by giving value and showing that you are an expert in your field. You can also leverage a lot of case studies, right? You can basically kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can give away value by sharing things that have worked for your clients, while also positioning you as the guy that has the case studies, right? You know what you're doing. And to show you some proof of the numbers that came in through this YouTube channel last year in 2025, we got 41 calls booked directly through YouTube. From that, we had 12 of those that were qualified, which is like 30% of the calls that are booked being qualified. Of those 12 qualified calls, 11 of them showed. Extremely high show rate, 91%. And we closed 8 of those 11 calls. Extremely high close rate, 72%. The total first month's revenue of the clients that we closed was over $36,000. And we closed 5 retainer clients. The other ones were one-time projects. And the total first month of the retainer clients was $30,000, right? And a lot of those clients are still with us today. Average first month retainer is $6,000. So we got a lot of high quality clients through YouTube. And again, this was 41 calls booked from a channel that at the beginning of last year, I think we probably had about 2,000 subscribers, maybe 2,500. We doubled the subscribers, but it's a tiny channel, right? Like we don't have 100,000 subscribers. We're still a very small channel, but we got amazing quality leads through there. And most of the clients that we signed last year were through YouTube. Now, the way that I structure the YouTube content specifically is 45% case studies, right? As I mentioned, demonstrating expertise, but also giving away value. Another 45% is educational, how-tos, guides, how to set up a high converting welcome flow in Klaviyo, how to set up Facebook ad whitelisting, just leaning into search terms that are popular right now. And the final 10% is conversion content, pitches, direct pitches about working with us. Maybe it's even just founder testimonials that are talking about working with us, and it's more just designed to convert those that are on the fence. And in every description of every YouTube video that I post, we have 3 call to actions. The first one is book a call, right? Is work with me. The second one is watch this video next. And the reason why we do that is because we get people to basically watch another video on my channel, because it's the likelihood of someone watching one video and booking a call and wanting to work with me is very low. It happens, but it's low. We want people to watch other videos, right? Watch other videos on my channel. There's plenty of videos to watch, but we want to push them to watching a next one. And the third CTA is a lead magnet, right? We say download the D2C Growth Vault here. The D2C Growth Vault is just a lead magnet where we give away a lot of free resources, and in return for that, we get an email address. So they sign up for a newsletter. Now we have a way to contact them via a newsletter. Now, if you're just getting into content, right, you haven't done this before, I would recommend starting off yourself. Maybe talk to a few different people who are ahead of you, right? Pay a little bit of money just to shortcut the learning curve there. Or if you have some more budget and maybe not so much time, then you could just pay a content team or an agency to do this for you. There's a lot of companies that do YouTube management where they come up with the scripts, the ideas, you record the videos, they edit them, they post them for you, right? You're just sitting down and recording. There's a bunch of agencies like that you can use to scale your content without actually having to do all the work yourself. All right, now let's get into part 2, which is all about converting leads into high value clients. Now you have leads coming in from outbound, content, and also hopefully referrals as well. But even with the best sales pipeline in the world, if your sales process does not convert, you're leaving a ton of money on the table. Now, I've seen it time and time again where agencies get plenty of calls booked, but their close rate is about 10% or 15%. And personally, I like to measure close rate on qualified calls, because the disqualified calls, we're not going to close them anyway. Let's only measure it on qualified calls to clients closed. And when it comes to your close rate, you want to be at least 30%. Ideally 30% to 50%. There's agencies out there that are doing 70% close rate, 80% close rate. As I showed you, my close rate last year on YouTube for qualified calls was 91%, right? And the way I think about this is, yeah, it's very high and it's great, but our pricing is probably too low. If we only closed 50% of those clients, but we doubled our price, then we probably would have made more money. I'm going to bring you through the exact sales process that I use to close clients. And this is the exact same process that I use to get the 91% close rate you saw. And this is something that I've used for years. So the first thing is qualification. Okay, we don't want to speak to everyone. If we are on a call with a lead that's not qualified, then it's probably going to be a waste of my time. What I do is I have a simple form before someone books a call, which asks them for specific questions. Things like their current monthly revenue, their estimated starting monthly ad spend. Have you worked with an agency before? Where did you hear about us? And really what I'm looking for is the monthly revenue, because we work with clients that are doing 100K per month minimum. So if someone is, between 0 and 30K per month revenue, then we're just not going to be able to work with them. Now, what I do is if I cancel the call, I send a cancellation note, right? And this just basically says, hey, we only work with brands doing over 100K per month. And just, from the form that you submitted, this wasn't the case. Let me know if that's a mistake. We've just worked better with those clients, but let's stay in touch. When you do hit that 100K per month mark, let's talk. And the reason why I say that is because the lead's not qualified now, but it might be qualified in 6 months or a year down the line. And we've had that happen to us where we've had leads come back once they are qualified. And I think it's completely fair because you're not wasting their time as well, right? And that's really the main thing. It's like, yes, I want to protect my time, but also if I get on a call and we spend 20 minutes talking about your business and I can't help you, then it's also a waste of their time. This qualification is important because as I mentioned, we had 41 calls booked. Only 12 of them were qualified. All the other ones were canceled. Now, that just saved me a lot of time. When we get a qualified call, we have a 2-call close process. Now, the first call structure is all about discovery, which is asking them questions to understand their problem and seeing if we can help them. If we can help them, then the call will move to more of a pitch. But if we cannot help them, then we'll let them know up front. And what we do is we ask them questions like, what are their current pain points for growth? We offer meta ads and email marketing. First of all, we understand where is someone's bottleneck? What service do they need? Is it both? Is it just one of them? Depending on that, we're just going to ask the right questions. And depending on the service that you're offering, you're going to have different questions that you ask your clients. So just have a list of questions. You probably already do this, but it's good just to have a list of questions already out so that you can make sure that you do check off all the questions, because if you're just going off the fly, you're just not going to remember all these questions. I've been doing this for years and I still can't remember all the questions. It's good just to have something to follow just to keep you on track. And notice how this is not a sales script. It's more conversational and it's less threatening. I like to approach the sales call just like, hey, let's just have a conversation. I want to learn more about your business. If it makes sense, I'll tell you more about what we do and see if we can work together. Sound good? And it's not much like a transactional conversation. It's just like, let me get to know more about your business and then we'll take it from there. Cool. As I mentioned, if it's a fit, if I think we can help them, I will add value. I will share how other businesses in their position solve that problem. And then seamlessly from there, I will ask permission to pitch. And basically, the reason why it's important to ask permission is because if you just start pitching, they'll be like, this is a pitch. But if I ask them, hey, is it okay if I share more information about what it is that we do? Would that be helpful? And they say yes, they've given me permission to pitch them. So I do a quick 5 minutes on my background, how I got to where I was right now, services that we offer, the company philosophy, right? Things that make you different to other agencies. You really want to get that across. Unique mechanism, and of course, the next steps. Once I've talked about that, I talk about the next steps, which is basically, hey, in order for us to make sure that we can actually help you, you would need to have a look under the hood at your Meta ad account, at your Klaviyo account. And again, this is depending on the services you're offering. If you don't need to look under the hood of anything, maybe you need to scope something out, right? Maybe you need to go back to your team and have a conversation. Maybe something needs to happen between call 1 and call 2. Sometimes you can just go one call close, right? It depends on what service you're offering. What we do is we get the access and then we set the second call. Now, if you're going to do a 2-call close, try and set the second call while you're still on the first call and try and leave as little time as possible between those 2 calls. Of course, same day is maybe a little bit of a push. It really depends on how much work you have to do in between. But usually I set it to like 2 days out, 3 days out maximum from the first call that we had. And I would say the reason why the close rate was high last year is because of all the work that we did in between call 1 and call 2, right? The hard work was done before the call even started. Because on this second call, what we do is we just present all the opportunities to them. We just spend some time going through their Meta ad account or their Klaviyo account or both, depending on what services they need. And I'm just going to find all the weak links, all the opportunities, all the money they're leaving on the table. I'm going to put them in a slide deck and I'm going to present them to them and say, hey, this is what's happening here. We noticed that here. You should be doing this instead. And at the same time, I'm telling them a little bit more about what we do for clients. Okay, I'm just weaving this in while I'm explaining this on the call. And here I have, some specific slides that are pulled from real slide decks that are presented to clients where I'm talking about the main opportunities within their email flows. From there, once I've gone through all those opportunities, I connect them to an action plan that we're going to implement for them. Notice how we're identifying all these things that are wrong. And we're saying, by the way, we can fix all these things, right? And that's where the action plan comes in. From there, once I've presented that, I also pivot into the contract terms, the pricing, onboarding, and next steps. When they join that second call, they've probably already convinced themselves that they want to work with us, maybe just on like a personal culture fit level. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have turned up to that second call, but they just need the final details like the pricing, and they just want to gut check that, are these guys the right fit or not? And that's something that's worked extremely well because it's just a seamless transition right into the client relationship. And it's not much like, do you want to buy, right? What I do is I take them through the details like this. Everything is done for you, month to month, no minimum commitment. Communications daily via Slack, 1 Zoom call per week, and this is the price. And then I talk about next steps. And then I talk about next steps, which is, the date we can get started, signing the contract agreement, onboarding process, deep research phase, etc., etc. And these are, again, slides that I pulled directly from client presentations that have been used to close clients. Now, if a client says yes, then I kickstart the onboarding process immediately. I have the onboarding form, which is a list of questions that they complete, which fills out information about their business, their customers, etc., just information that we need to do our job. I also send them over a checklist of the platform access that we need. They can go through that, which just makes sure that we have access to all the platforms in one sitting. Then I include some additional things like I sent over the Slack invite. That's where we're going to communicate. I'm going to send over the agreement in a separate email, etc. Basically, just kickstarting those next steps as soon as they've said yes. The more time that goes by between someone saying yes and actually, sending you the payment, signing the contract agreement, completing the onboarding process, the more time that goes by, the less likely it is for the deal to close. I just want to move as fast as possible. Now, before we talk about client retention and lifetime value, and this is a little bit related as well, I do want to talk about retainers versus one-time projects. Project work is arguably easier to sell on the front end, but then you just don't get the recurring nature of retainers. My co-founder at Yander, for example, he went through years of just doing one-time projects, and it was feast and famine. And there was never a compounding effect on the revenue. Whereas my agency, we were doing retainers from day one, and our revenue compounded and we grew a lot faster as a result. Now, it may have been harder for us to sell those retainers and get the wheels moving at the beginning, but it served us well years into the process. And my recommendation is always to lead with a retainer where possible. And you can still have those one-time project offers for clients who maybe aren't ready to go all in into a retainer yet. And we've done this as well. We've started some clients with one-time projects, and then those clients have then been rolled into a retainer once they see the quality of our work. And sometimes you need to do that. It just depends on the client and the stage that they're at. But I would say, that's the caveat. You want to have your core offer be around retainers, and then you want to have some options for one-time projects in case, clients are just on the fence and skeptical. Now let's get into part 3, client retention and lifetime value. Now we're signing clients and we're bringing them on board through a sales process at a good rate. But the thing that separates 6-figure agencies from 7-figure and 8-figure agencies is not just about the lead flow and having a great sales process. It's about being able to retain your clients for years. And at Hayes Media, my marketing agency, we've kept clients for an average of 15 months. Some clients have been with us for 4 years, 5 years, but the average is about 15 months. And that retention has been such an important part of our growth. Let's talk about lifetime value and what that actually means for your agency. Basically, the average of how much a client pays you over the course of them being with your agency. And you can have different lifetime value numbers for different time frames, right? Maybe you have a 3-month lifetime value, a 6-month, 12-month lifetime value. The first thing you want to do is you want to set targets for your client lifetime value. For example, you want to have your average client tenure be 12 months minimum. This is clients stay with you for a minimum of 12 months. Then you want to look at your LTV to CAC ratio. This is the ratio of how much you're spending to acquire a customer versus a lifetime value of a client. And you want to be aiming for a minimum 5 to 1. So if you're spending $1,000 to acquire a client, you want to make sure that that client is at least bringing you $5,000 in lifetime value. And this is on the minimum. Most agencies are operating at 20 to 1, 30 to 1. When you can get those numbers, it completely changes your business because now you can be much more aggressive with acquiring new clients that you're just going to be able to grow much faster than the other agencies out there. And this is the secret, right? If you have very, very good lifetime value, then you're not a churn and burn agency. Every client that you get, you keep for a long time, right? Imagine you keep every client for years and you can spend $5,000, $10,000 to acquire a client. It's very difficult to compete with an agency that can do that. And then you want to be looking at your monthly churn rate and you want to aim for this to be below 5%. In any given month, what percentage of your total clients are leaving your agency? Below 5% is really the gold standard. If you're above 10%, especially getting closer to 15%, you really have problems and you want to make sure that you fix those as soon as possible. Now, I've already spoke a little bit about client onboarding, and really client onboarding is the foundation of clients that stick around, because if your onboarding is terrible, if it's messy, it's chaos, clients are deciding during that onboarding process if they see you as a long-term partner or not. This is crucial. The client onboarding experience, I really break this down into 2 things. We have the onboarding timeline, which is day 1, I welcome the client to Slack. I send a message once the client jumps into the Slack channel and I say, hey, welcome to the Slack channel. I give them an intro to the team. I say, this is your main point of contact. This person is responsible for that. And basically just intro them to everyone who's going to be working on their account. Then everyone on the team jumps in and says, hey, what's up? Great to meet you. Excited to work together, etc., etc. This just reinforces to the client that the team looks good. They're on top of it. Amazing. From there, the lead, the account manager, the person who's leading that client sends a clear timeline of what's going to happen next. And the client is basically saying, wow, someone's taking control of the situation. That's not the person that sold me, which makes them feel good. Because look, if you're a founder, you're on sales calls, you're bringing clients into the agency, just like me, you know that one of the hardest things is being able to hand over the clients to your team because the clients are still associating the company with you, right? You're the face and you're the reason you sold them the dream. Now, the key is to get your team involved extremely early. And ideally, you even want the person that's going to be managing their account, the person that's going to be leading that client, managing that client on the second call with you, on the closing call. And they can even add some value on the call so that the client frames that person as this person is like on the same level as the founder. And it just makes the client a lot more comfortable when you do that handover to your team. Then we just make sure that the client has access to everything they need. We have a client area within our project management system that just allows them to get access to the project management board, a few different other things that they need to do approvals, and all good. Then we make sure we get the intake questions done, and then we just make this frictionless for the client. And really what we're doing here is we're reducing buyer's remorse. If you buy something, whether it's a service or whether it's a physical good, and you start thinking, was that a good idea? Was that a good decision? After you've just made the purchase, that's buyer's remorse. We want to eliminate that, and this is the way to eliminate it. Then day 4 or day 5, we have the kickoff call with the clear roadmap. This is the first call that the team has with the client that basically says, this is what's going to happen over the next 90 days. Or, if we have a specific 60-day timeline, it's going to be 60 days, just depending on the service that's being delivered. If it's a recurring retainer that's just indefinite, we still do a 90-day program because, we're looking 90 days out. It's quite a long time frame already. Usually beyond that, we can't really expect what's going to happen. And I like this call to happen no later than 5 days from the contract sign date. The reason being is because, again, it's just a time and a speed thing. The longer that goes on, it's like the longer we're taking just to actually kick things off with the client properly. So we like to have that call as soon as possible. And also, if we're doing things like ad creatives for the client, we want to come to that call with a little bit of the research that we've done already, just to show that we're making progress on the work very, very early on. Then between day 7 and day 10, we want to show progress fast. This can even just be a rough preview of the creative concepts that we're working on or the emails that we're designing. And what this does is it allows the client to see movement, but also that we're building momentum. And then day 11 and onwards is the regular check-in calls, We're proactively setting expectations with the client, and then we're also sending them weekly updates within Slack. This onboarding timeline, this first 11 days, if you like, is extremely important to making sure you keep that client, all right? And I'll be transparent with you. We've had situations where that onboarding process for some clients went terrible, and the clients just said, you know what, I'm not moving forward, send me a refund, right? That's happened. And that woke me up to say, hey, like we need to get this together. And this is the process that we put in place. We refined it a little bit over the years, but this works extremely well. The second thing with client onboarding and also more of the longer term retention is the communication cadence. So what we do is we have weekly Zoom calls. We've seen the data, right? We've tried bi-weekly, we've tried monthly calls. Weekly always works better just because we get more face time with the client. The more the client speaks to us, the more time the client spends with us, and especially if we're working on an important part of their business, the better, right? The more trust we can build, the deeper the relationship can go, that when things get a bit rocky, they trust us to get them out of that situation. Then we do a weekly Slack report. We don't just deliver the update on a Zoom call, which is visual and obviously they can hear it as well, but we also have it in written format where they can read it. We're giving it to them in different ways. Different clients respond better to like seeing things with their eyes. Other ones just want to read it, right? Other ones just want to hear it. Like different clients respond in different ways. We like to cover all bases, and it also just allows us to keep a record of the reports that we're sending. And we can also benchmark like how things have improved over time. And we like to be very proactive in Slack, which we use for day-to-day communication. Keeps everything organized in one place. We don't like to use tools like Telegram, WhatsApp. Slack is just business, strictly business. It keeps the team focused, keeps the clients focused, and we're very proactive. We like to be, usually we're sending things every few days. Some clients it's daily. So now let's talk about one of my favorite things, which is building relationships with clients and also tracking client sentiment, which means how do clients actually feel about your service? Let me take you through the early warning system for at-risk clients. We track 7 different signals that flag at-risk clients. These are clients that might churn. Over the years, I've always had this kind of anxiety over clients leaving the agency, right? Especially as the founder, where you're responsible for bringing clients in and you have payroll, you have a bunch of expenses, you're carrying a lot of risk. As a business owner, you want to make sure that we can keep our clients, and we don't want clients to leave for like a stupid reason that we could have solved. Right? What I want to do is I want to spot the signs that could lead to clients churning. So let me take you through the 7 signals. The first one is declining engagement in meetings. These are people who just don't even show up to the meetings. Maybe they skip a few meetings a month, or maybe they send other people on their team and the founders no longer join when they were joining earlier on. Now, that's not always the case, right? The founder may just trust you so that they can send other team members to the call. They don't need to be there, but just something to keep an eye on, because if the founder's not in the loop and it's a small company, then that could lead to problems later down the road. The second signal is delayed responses. If a client is usually responding within minutes or hours, now it takes days, maybe you don't even hear from the client for a week. We've had situations like this where we had clients that were very unresponsive. Those clients eventually churned from the agency. The third signal is budget discussions, or we need to evaluate vendors, right? Usually a sign that something might be coming your way. The fourth signal is organizational changes. Organizational changes within their business. Maybe they have a new head of marketing, a new CMO. Maybe they're restructuring the company. Maybe there's layoffs. Maybe they're merging with another company. I've seen all these things over the years where we've worked with companies that were dealing with a head of marketing. That person has changed 3 times, right, during the time that we work with the client. They've also been acquired by another company. It's like so many changes that every time that happens, we need to build a new relationship with that new person from zero. Signal number 5 is performance plateaus. Even if your results are decent, if growth has flatlined and you know that, then that could also lead to churn. Very obvious, but you need to get the wheels moving and you cannot become comfortable. Even if a client doesn't say anything about the results and they've flatlined, you need to be proactively to keep pushing results in the right direction. The 6th signal is reduced scope requests. This is, hey, let's just focus on the basics for now. That kind of pulling back your scope for reasons that are not shared with you. Maybe if it's a specific reason around budget constraints, maybe that's fine. But they may also be testing those other services, those other things with other agencies and vendors. And finally, number 7 is sentiment shifts. These are just shifts in the way that the client feels about you as a service provider and also your team. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, these 7 things are difficult to track, especially as you get more and more clients. It is extremely difficult to keep a pulse on how every single client is feeling, because you as the founder or the leader, the CEO, the head of operations, whatever your position is within the agency, you probably are not going to be on every single client call because you just spend your whole week on calls, right? You need to be relying on other people in your team to report to you, and then also just get a pulse from Slack. Maybe you join a call once a month, but even then it's not enough. For that reason, I built my own platform alongside a co-founder of mine who runs another agency of his own and found the same problems, right? And what this does is it plugs into Slack, emails, meeting recordings, and it takes the real words that clients are saying and it pulls the insights from all those platforms and it gives us scores on our clients. What is the sentiment of those clients? What is the risk of those clients leaving? And it presents them in a very clean and simple dashboard. And this is just an example in a demo account, but you can see here that we have sentiment per client and we can actually hover over this and see why. Like, why is the sentiment high? It's because the CEO praised the campaign results in last week's Slack thread. Said, best quarter we've had in leads, your team crushed it. And it basically takes specific things and it says this client is happy, this client is not so happy. Things like this client, whereas neutral to cautious, responses are polite but increasingly transactional, stopped using exclamation marks and great work language, right? It understands behaviors over time. It's not just taking it at face value now. It's able to see what was happening before and what's happening now and spot those differences. We built an extremely smart algorithm to be able to do that. And with that, you can also see the clients that are at risk, right? This client right here is at risk, high churn risk. What I'll do is I will investigate that. We'll set a one-to-one with the client. We'll set an intervention call, and we might be able to save the client relationship before they leave. That could save us tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And what I love about this is it just gives me the raw data. I don't have to rely on other humans that might miss things. I don't have to constantly be asking my leaders like, hey, how is this client feeling? I don't even have to join the calls. I can just look at these scores and get the updates. Like, the raw data is out there, right? It's in the meeting recordings. It's in the Slack threads. It's in the email threads. But I just need that data to be presented to me and take action on the clients that are at risk. And I know that this proactive approach to saving client relationships has saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. Now, if you want to try Yander in your company, then there's a link down below, the first one in the video description. We'll take you to Yander. Go ahead, try it for free, and in a few days, you're going to start getting scores that tell you how your clients are feeling about your service. The next thing I want to talk about is proactive partnership. Now, this is all about being proactive with your clients. Things like introducing them to new tools, industry insights. Maybe you heard something randomly from the industry that they're in and it's not even related to the service that you're doing, but you send it to them because they're top of mind, right? And it's like, hey, I heard this, thought it might be helpful, right? Maybe just forward an email, something like that. Then you want to do intros to service providers. If they're looking for someone who does social media management and you don't do social media management, but you know someone who does and is a killer, introduce them, right? They're going to associate that value with you. And then also, I like to do favors for my clients from time to time. Now, we've done this many times over the years, but basically, if the client's going through a rough patch that's not really related to us, I can basically extend their billing terms. I can, reduce the services temporarily. We can do different things to help them. If they need us to review something on the website and it's not really part of our service, we'll review it for them because, again, it's more of a partnership. That's why I said proactive partnership. We really see our client relationships as partnerships. And when you do, you and your team are more invested in each client. And that comes across in the way that you interact with that client on a daily basis, but also in the work itself. And that's just going to lead to you retaining clients for a lot longer. Okay, this next one is important when it comes to lifetime value, and it's all about escalating your existing clients. Now, I'm sure you've heard the phrase, it's easier to keep your existing clients than get new ones, right? And you can get your existing clients to pay you more money. And the way that you do that is, number one, through upsells, right? You might want to sell them more of the same thing. Maybe they're already getting ad creatives from you, and you can say, hey, rather than 10 ad creatives, let's do 15 ad creatives, 20 ad creatives, because you're scaling your ad spend and you're happy with the creatives. And the key is to do that after some sort of big win or, when things are going well. When things are not going well, you don't want to do an upsell, right? You just got to be smart about it and just apply some common sense. Another way to upsell is move from like a done with you to a done for you. Let's just say you're doing like a done with you service or a do it yourself. You might want to move into a more custom, higher priced tier of done for you where you're actually doing it for them. And you can also bolt on additional things which are related to the existing service. Another way to escalate existing clients is through cross-sells. This is basically similar to upsell, but you sell them a different service. At my agency, we do meta ads and email marketing. If a client starts with us doing meta ads and we're doing their ad creators for them and things are going well, then email marketing is a very natural upsell because we're acquiring clients, acquiring customers for them, but now we need to retain those customers. They're very complementary, and we've had a lot of clients that have started with us on ads and converted into email, or the opposite way around. And then the third part of escalating existing clients is strategic referrals. Again, after a big win or a strong review call with the client, you know that they're happy, you ask them the question like, hey, do you know anyone else who would benefit from a service, right? You ask it and you frame it in a way where it's like, do you know someone else that would benefit from this, that would find it very, very helpful if we did the same thing for them? When you frame it like that, you're not just like, hey, can you send us some referrals? That doesn't work, right? And some clients will proactively send you referrals, but a lot of clients need to be asked. Get the timing right and ask. And you don't just ask once, but you can ask multiple times throughout the year. And you can even give them a kickback for successful referrals. This is just an incentive for clients to like actually go out and look in their network and say, is someone going to be a good fit for this agency? And ways to do kickbacks, you could just give them like a one-time referral fee. You can give them a percentage of the first month. You can give them a small percentage that's recurring. Every month the client pays you. You give them 10%. We've done all these things. Honestly, like they all work well. The recurring 10% of the client's retainer works the best. But yeah, you can figure this out for yourself, and it obviously depends on what service you're selling. All right, guys, part 4, the final part, scaling profitably and building the machine. At this point, you have all the growth levers in place. You're getting leads, you're acquiring clients, you're retaining those clients. But here is where a lot of agencies fall apart. Many agencies are profitable in the 6-figure range. Then they scale up, they start doing $1 million a year plus, and their profit margins just disappear. And the founder is under more pressure, more stress, and they're taking home less money. It's just all around a lose-lose. And the reason for that is because the operational systems and the team structure was never built in the first place. And I know that because I've lived this. There's many, many times over the years where we scaled up and then we had to scale back down, and then we scaled up again and we scaled back down. And the reason why we couldn't sustain it is because basically our client performance, our results would get worse as we added more and more clients. Now, the problem wasn't that we were adding more clients, is that we didn't have the team structure and we didn't have bulletproof operational systems to support that growth. Take it from me, if you are scaling right now, or if you want to scale further, please put these things in place before you do, because if you don't, then you're likely going to face the same issues that I did, which you're going to scale up just to have to come back down to where you were. And trust me, that is one of the most frustrating things as a business owner. It is heartbreaking, right? You put your heart and soul into building this company, and then you realize that things are just going to break if you keep pushing, and you have to come back. You have to come back and you have to take a step back, right? And for the longest time, I felt like we were taking one step forward just to take 2 steps back. Now, since then, we've fixed it, and I'm going to share all the things that we've done, and just so that you can avoid the mistakes that I've made. Number 1, your P&L is the scoreboard. The profit and loss statement is one of the most overlooked things in agencies, but it is by far one of the most important things. And you'd be surprised how many agencies that are even doing 7 figures a year, millions of dollars a year, still overlook some of the things I'm about to share with you right now. Now, if you do not have a P&L that's being delivered to you every single month, that is step 0. I would go ahead and get that fixed right now, because if you just don't have clarity into your financials, I mean, that's your business, right? What I do is I have a financial tracker that's updated as we get towards the end of the month. That at the end of the month, even before the month finishes, I can see exactly the incomings and the outgoings. And I know before the month starts roughly what it's going to be. As an agency, it's much, much easier to manage your P&L because you're not selling physical goods and cost of goods sold and all that stuff. It's a lot easier with the ins and outs, right? What you're spending versus what you're receiving. That's what I do, and I would recommend you do the same. The next step would be that you have it delivered to you very soon after the month ends. I don't even like that because you're more reactive. I like to be proactive with the financials. There's 4 levers I want to bring you through that you can optimize to grow a more profitable agency. The first one is overstaffing. The first thing you want to do is you want to track revenue per employee. The gold standard is that your revenue per head is $400,000 per year. Now, if you're a fully remote agency with contractors, you can afford to go lower, right? You could probably afford for this to be 300,000, 250. Like the gold standard is 400K, but usually it's also for people who don't have offshore talent, have full-time employees, and also have an office. The second thing on overstaffing is don't hire too fast. It's better to be understaffed and fill positions than to be overstaffed and operating way under capacity. And we've done this a lot, trust me. What I'm basically saying here is better to stretch your team and then hire that one person that's going to relieve the team, rather than having 3 people with too much capacity, right? They don't know what to do at that time. And then you're having to fill clients just to make sure you're staying at capacity. You want to be in the first position. You don't want to be in the second position. Lever number 2, software expenses. These add up fast. You'd be surprised. If you haven't done a monthly audit of your software expenses, what tools you're using, then you might be in for a shock as to how much you're spending here. What I would do is I would do a monthly audit of the tools that you're using, the softwares, and say, we need these tools, we don't need these tools, and start canceling things that you don't need immediately. The third lever is client level profitability. Now, not every client is equally profitable. Some clients require 3 times the communication, more revisions, more meetings, more resources basically. And what I would do is I would track the hours spent per client against what they pay you. And eventually we're going to have Yanda do this for you as well. That's just a way that you're going to be able to see which clients are actually bringing you the most profit. You might have a client that's paying you a lot, but the profit margin on that client might be very slim. And you may find that 2 or 3 of your clients are actually costing you money. You're actually losing money on some clients. And what you should do is you should either reprice them or let them go. The fourth lever is operational structure. Opt for contractors over full-time employees if you can, and opt for fully remote over an office if you can. At my agency, we have everyone remote. We also have everyone as contractors. They're full-time contractors. They only work with Hays, but we're not covering their health insurance, their benefits, etc., etc. And we also hire offshore. We have a lot of people in South America. We have some people in Europe, UK. We also have Philippines, India. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to get great talent. We use the world as a talent pool because we're a remote company. And we can also save a lot on employee expenses as well. Now let's talk about scaling quality without scaling yourself. This is one of the hardest things when you're running an agency that delivers done for you work, because if you want to maintain your quality when you have 10 clients versus when you have 100 clients, right? Or maybe you don't want to have 100 clients, but even 30 clients, you want to 3x your client count and maintain quality without scaling your own time, right? Then you need to build SOPs. You need these standing operating procedures. And what we do is we keep them all in Notion, right? We love to use Notion, but we have a database like this, which just has all the SOPs, and we have it by department. And we even have it split out by specific SOPs, monthly goals, sales, LTV targets, campaign content calendar, new flows, etc., etc. Basically, in each of these pages is a detailed breakdown of how to do a specific thing and the standard that needs to be upheld when doing that. Maybe some have checklists, some have Loom videos, some have processes that need to be followed. But when you have this in place, it is much more likely that other people on the team can follow these to the T, and it allows you to maintain quality of service delivery. And not to mention, when you have these SOPs in place, you as the founder or the leader, you stop becoming the glue that's just holding everything together, right? Things don't always have to go through you as the founder. Your team can handle things because everything is documented. And this is one of the most effective ways to scale quality. All right, now let's talk about building a team that runs without you. Every founder, every CEO wants this. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, this is the part that almost broke our agency many, many times. It took me such a long time to get the right team members, but also build a structure that made sense. And not to mention, while doing that, every decision had to go through me. I was spending my time on client calls for a long time before I was able to get the right team members in place that I trusted to be able to handle those for me, to be able to oversee the team, to be able to hold everyone on the team accountable. And I'm going to share how we structure things internally, and maybe you can take some of this and apply it to your own agency as well. At the top, we have the CEO, this is me, and we have 2 different departments within our agency. As I mentioned earlier, we do meta ads, paid ads, and then we also do email marketing. On the paid ad side, we have a head of performance, we have a performance marketer, creative strategist, and we have 3 editors. Then we have a Shopify developer, a UGC coordinator, and a file manager. This is the whole team that allows us to run that department. And we have the email department, which has the head of retention, right? This is basically the equivalent of the head of performance. And these are the 2, basically these are my direct reports. I speak to the head of retention and the head of performance every single week. I hold them accountable, but they hold the rest of the team beneath them accountable. That's how it works. Underneath the head of retention, we have email marketers. We have 3 of them. We have an email designer and an email QA. And what we can do is, as we have more clients, we can expand this by just adding more email marketers. We can have more email designers, more email QAs. We can add a project manager, and that's how we're going to scale and expand. On this side of the business, on the ad creative side, we add more performance marketers, we add more creative strategists, we add more editors, right? We can just add more of those roles and kind of expand it in this pod structure. Then we have some additional roles which more help throughout the whole company, and even just things that are outside of the direct departments. This is my VA, bookkeeper, Salesforce developer, which is, some clients had those needs, and also a YouTube editor for the YouTube videos. Now, I spoke about Yander for tracking the sentiment of your clients, but the really cool thing about Yander is that it also allows you to keep a pulse on your team without micromanaging and without spying on them. Let me show you how it works. Just like you saw with the clients, we also have a team dashboard which tracks things like the team's workload. Again, it pulls these things from the tools that you're already using on a daily basis. It plugs into them. You don't need to do anything else. It plugs into Slack. It plugs into emails. It has its own built-in meeting recorder. It plugs into your project management tools. And what it does is it gives you scores that are updated every single day on your team's workload, on their engagement, on their risk of them quitting and leaving your company, on their commitment, their communication, and more. You can track many, many more things across your team. And why is this important? Because if you have a remote team, it is very difficult when you have a lot of team members to know exactly whose workload is getting too high, who is no longer engaged, whose response time is just completely dropped, right? You get insights like this where the communication needs attention because average response time increased to 8 hours. They missed 2 client update threads. Again, you get attribution into why the scores are this way. You also get notifications sent to you on Slack that you don't have to come in here and look at the scores every day. You can do that if you want to, but you also can get notified when scores start to change in the right direction or the wrong direction. Because the right direction, because you want to be able to praise people for doing good work, but the wrong direction because you want to be able to step in and stop your A players from leaving, but also understand when it is time to let someone go because they become extremely disengaged and are costing you time and money, basically. We've had situations like this happen multiple times over the years. And this is why we built this, because we needed it for ourselves and we're using it ourselves within our agency. My co-founder as well, same thing. If you want an accurate pulse on your team, you want to keep your best people. You want to praise people for doing great work. You want to see and have a pulse on what is going on behind the scenes without having to ask your direct reports, without having to go into the project management tools and see who's delivering work, who's not delivering work. Go into the Slack threads. Is this person responding or not? You're going to see it, the raw data. This has been extremely, extremely useful for my agency. And the agencies that have been using this in the early days of us launching, the feedback that we've got is incredible. If you want to have this in your agency or in your company, then go to the link down below. And the first one is going to take you to Yander. You can try it for free and you'll start getting scores on your team. Now, the final thing that I want to cover in this fourth section is proactive hiring. You see, in an agency, your team makes or breaks your delivery. And if someone leaves your agency unexpectedly and you do not have someone else to replace that person immediately, then you're going to lose time, right? You might even lose the client, because if that person's been working with the client for a few years, the client has a trust with that person leaves, the client starts questioning what's going on. Maybe they don't see any action for a few weeks, they get itchy feet and they leave, right? We've had that happen to us. We've seen it multiple times in other agencies. You never want to be in a position where you're forced to make a quick hiring decision just because someone left your agency and you didn't see it coming. What I have here is a proactive hiring process, and this is an always-on hiring process that just allows you to be insulated against those situations where someone quits your agency unexpectedly. Although if you're using Yander, you should probably see the signs ahead of time. That's one of the great things that Yander does. But you can follow these 4 steps as well. First is having evergreen job posts live, right? This is 1 to 3 key positions, and maybe even more. Maybe you rotate it every often once you have a good number of candidates, but you have these job posts live, just getting applicants in on a consistent basis. Then once those applications are coming in, you have an automation that's filtering those applications, because look, you're not going to spend all your time going through applications. Of course, if you're an agency that's big enough to have a HR person and even a HR department, then they're probably already doing this for you. But smaller agencies where you don't have this, then this is going to be a very, very important part, because you don't want to, again, sitting down, going through tons of applications every week. What you want to have is you want to have some sort of automation that is filtering out applications that just don't meet your criteria. And what you're going to be left with is a few applications that do meet the criteria. And then you want to take 1 or 2 interviews per week. You want to keep it light because you want to be able to commit to it to the long term. And again, this is proactive, right? You don't need to hire this person now, but the whole thing here is we're getting people through. We're building a pipeline of candidates, just like we like to build a pipeline of clients, right? We're building a pipeline of candidates that can join our team when we need them. And what it's doing is basically protecting us on the downside, right? If someone leaves unexpectedly, we have a pipeline of candidates that are ready to come in. And if we want to grow fast, if we just hit a very good growth spurt, but we need more team members now, ASAP, we don't want to be forced into making wrong hiring decisions, then having that pipeline of candidates ready to go is going to be so valuable for you. This is the proactive hiring process. At this point, you have the full playbook. You know how to build a client acquisition engine with both inbound and outbound methods. You also know how to convert those leads into clients with a structured sales process. And once you get those clients into your agency, now you know how you can retain them for years through your onboarding process, through your communication cadence, and also that early warning system that catches signs of churn before it happens. And you also know how to scale profitably with SOPs, with keeping a close eye on the financials, building a team that runs your company without you, having visibility into your team's performance with a tool like Yander, and putting operational systems in place that just hold everything together. Now, if you want to shortcut your agency's growth by having better visibility into your team, having better visibility into what clients think of your service, then head over to yander.io or go to the first link in the video description, plug Yander into your agency, try it for free, and start getting the data that you need to make better team and client decisions. And we built this for agencies to make sure that they don't break their businesses as they scale. And honestly, this is something that I wish I would have had in the early days of scaling my agency, and I'm glad that we have it now. Hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next one.